What's up, everybody? You're going to love this episode. This is my dear, beautiful wife, Rachel. She came on and shared her experience because the truth is she's been behind the scenes as I've built my co-living company and her co-living company, because we're partners in this co-living company, from 0 to 150 doors. And I'm excited that you're going to get to hear from her. Now, what's cool about this is my wife is extremely passionate about design and staging and community and giving back. And you're going to definitely see that come across in this episode. And then we kind of just wandered off on some of the relationship things. So you're going to get a good dose of some of our viewpoints and our philosophies on how we've worked together and some of the challenges that we've had as well. And so there's some great relationship content in here as well. It was honestly great for me to even hear as a reminder from my wife as we chatted it out. So enjoy this episode. There's some good nuggets on co-living. You're going to love it. Look forward to hearing your feedback. And if you want to hear more from Rachel, drop us a comment on this episode. All right, much love. Enjoy. All right, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? We got the one, the only Miss Rachel Wegert on the show today, Scale Your Real Estate, which is about real estate, real wealth, and real freedom. And I'm so proud, everything I talk about really in all of the podcasts and all of our ads and our course and everything. I mean, this is not hyperbole to say that none of it would have happened without the girl that is on the show today. She is the engine behind the machine, and she supports our empire that we're building. And so talk about it, but really you're going to get to hear the real details of how the empire was built today, because this is my wife on the show, ladies and gentlemen. So let's welcome Rachel Wegert. What's up, girl? Good to see you.
Hi, honey. Always good to see you.
You had a way that you were going to introduce yourself the other day. Remember, you shared that with me. You want to share that with everybody?
Oh, yeah. So the inspiration was I believe it was the way that Grant Cardone, and this is not a comparison, but the way he announced Alana on stage at 10X.
All right, go for it. She shared this the other day. She was like, you need to introduce me on the show this way. All right,
no, I didn't say you need to or should. I just sent it to you. It was like, ladies and gentlemen, the one, the only, Rachel Wegert, and like basically adding lib, co-empire builder. She is the one responsible for the engine fueling the machine. The one, the only, my wife, Rachel Wegert.
So all of our listeners are already realizing you're way more fun to hang out with. No one's gonna want to watch this podcast of this episode. I mean, like, where's Rachel? Which is true. This happens all the time, right? I brought Rachel on one of our coaching calls with our Co-Living Master University students, and at the end, I was like, "All right, guys, like Rachel was on. What'd you learn from her?" I don't even think you were presenting. You just ended up in a breakout room, wasn't it? And the people that came out of the breakout room were like, we want Rachel without Sam here. We want Rachel to run a whole session all by herself so we can get all the real details. So anyway, no.
I paid him to say that.
You paid him to? No,
yeah.
You didn't. Rachel's a value adder wherever she goes. She really brings the energy and the fire. And the truth is, what a lot of people don't know about you is that you were the first, no, not the first. The second ever property manager that I had.
That's a fun story. Yeah. No, thanks, honey. Thanks for having me on. This is fun. I love working. All jokes aside, you are my favorite person, and I love doing this one full life. We get one life. So this one life fully lived, to plug Tim Road nonprofit organization, One Life Fully Lived. I love getting to do that alongside you. So we're just here to have fun and make money and change lives along the way. So I'm grateful that I have a partner to do that with.
Yeah. Yeah, that was kind of something early on in our relationship. I tried to really set the vision. We should tell this little story because it does kind of relate to this. So this was like, I was super into Tony Robbins when I met Rachel, and I would always come back and talk about it. And Rachel was kind of like, who is this guy? Like, about me, not Tony Robbins, about me. because I was trying to mimic Tony Robbins and had his energy and his passion and had his drive for life. But she had never been to any of his events. She had never seen him. So she didn't really fully understand. Right. But I would come home and I would constantly pitch the vision that you just shared, which is like, hey, I want to create a life of impact and income. And that really was a foundation. I mean, I think it's important for our listeners to hear, because like it was really the foundation for you and I and a lot of things of like, we constantly talked about, hey, impact and income. Like let's make a bunch of money and live that life we want to live, but let's do it in a way that serves people. And so one day I decided like, hey, Rachel has got to go to Tony Robbins event called Unleash the Power Within. It's one of our favorite events. It's one of my favorite events. I've been to it probably 6 or 7 times and crewed it a bunch and volunteered. So I send Rachel, and I think like the week before we broke up, right? And we broke up, and I had given you, I sent I think a brother and a sister or something with you as well. Mm-hmm. And so we break up.
Staff member?
Oh, one of my staff members. Yeah. So but I'd given you the VIP ticket. I had one VIP ticket. And I was like, well, I'll give it to, this girl that I'm seeing. And I remember feeling so mad. I was like, why did I give this girl when I could have given it to my staff member, my brother? But it totally paid off.
Yes.
Because you came back, and like, maybe you can share from your end what your experience was coming back. Kind of how that really set our relationship at the beginning up on the stage to create wealth and to invest in real estate. And now when I make decisions, like you kind of get where it's all coming from, right? But I'd love tell what's your perspective on that? Like how did that change your perspective?
Yeah. Well, first caveat is you mentioned the order of values being impact over income. And I think it matters for listeners that the switch we were able to make during our relationship and into our partnership is that we didn't just want to have income. We also wanted to have impact. I think that was a switch we made early on, was the priority, impact over income, because the results and the outcome and the way and approach that you do business and create partnerships will change, based on that order. So I just wanted to say that. And then, I would say that I would say you've gotten dividends off your VIP investment. Because that was the event where I was able to have a seat in the audience and really just get this. I was just imagining. I sat back and I said, "Oh, this is what Sam's trying to create." I got like a real tangible sense of the vision, empire, and, everybody has all these words and goals that they throw out there. And you were so, you had the foresight to send me to an event for somebody else to show me, what financial freedom could look like, just a taste of what the next level of living life could look like, health, area of relationship, finance, wealth creation. And so, in that 3-day event, I really was able to experience the fullness of these things that we had, all these talks and discussions that we had along the way. So I think I wrote you a letter, a couple, by the end of the seminar, he suggests that you write people in your life, 2 or 3 people, you write them a letter and to just thank them for the impact that they've had. And you were one of those people. Even if it wasn't going to go any further, I just wanted you to know from a human being standpoint, the impact and the influence that you had over me and my life in that short period of time. That was the event that I think changed the course of our destiny.
It really did. Yeah. And that's why we're big on like encouraging couples to go to some of these, real estate seminars or conferences together if at all possible. And I know it's tougher with kids and the whole thing, but like that's been a big, you and I now host Date with Destiny virtually at our house. It's like one of Tony Robbins' signature events. Every year we bring in friends or to our house or to somewhere else that we rent, and we do it with couples, and we really encourage couples to come together. But reminds me, I want to share this. I don't know if my camera will pick this up, but if I do, like, I'm going to write this. It's like a triangle. You and I talk about this a lot, if, let's see if my camera will pick that up. Yeah, it kind of does. So here, if I've got my notes here. So you got Rachel and you got Sam, right? And if we're working towards a common goal, which is the circle, right? Then we're getting closer together. You and I have talked about this. We're getting closer together just by the fact that we're working towards a common goal. It's not like we're even focused on each other. We're just like, hey, we're both headed towards this thing. And as we both work towards that thing, which, we've described as, a certain dollar amount that we want to hit in our lifetime and in net worth, and doing that in a way of impacting others. And that's why co-living is so near and dear to our hearts, because we feel like it really truly impacts people. But anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but just we're working on that common goal, and it brings us closer together. Mm-hmm. Would you see it the same way, or what's your
point? No, I think that's a great analogy, for any of your life. It's like, if you're so focused on the other person, I think that's where the tension. However, I think if you are focused on yourselves and you're focused on your relationship with God, it's all an upward climb, then vicariously you are virtually, by doing that, you're growing closer and closer. And I think that's our relationship is just evidence of that.
Yeah.
So that's a great reminder, honey. Yeah. To stay on that course.
We should start a relationship podcast. Like,
I don't know if we're there yet. Give us a couple more years. Let us be seasoned.
Let's go. All right. Well, hey, now that we got that passed, let's dive into, tell us about your first introduction, because this is a Scale Your Real Estate podcast. So we'll do the relationship podcast later, but tell us about your first introduction to house hacking, or co-living as people call it.
For me, it was birthed out of a need to save money. And the way to do that was roommate situation. So I had saved up money and paid my way through, I was paying my way through college, the normal 4-year degree. I think it ended up taking me altogether 5. So maybe I'm a slow learner. However, that was the way I wanted to do it. I didn't want to go into debt. And so I was able to live with roommates and save money and, be able to afford something that maybe I otherwise couldn't afford. And at the same time have that, as a single woman coming home at night, you have other cars in the driveway and the lights were on. And sometimes my roommate would be roommates would be out in the kitchen cooking, or offer wine. So it was a great way to create a sense of community as a single woman. And also just not feel alone, going through that season of my life, singlehood, not going through life alone. So,
yeah. A lot of people don't know this about our story, but when we met, you had, I think, 1 roommate at the time, and I had 5 or 6 roommates at the time.
5 in the first house, and then I think the second house was 6.
6, yeah. So we met in this kind of thing. What was your tell them the story about when you came over to my house and there was all those people around and you were like, what is going on? Like, what did you think? I don't know if I've ever actually asked you this. Like, what did you think of the whole roommate situation? Which I think it's cool that you use the word roommates, because a lot of people, that's basically what we're doing. We're just doing roommates. Co-living is like a systematic, professional investor way to do roommates. But I'm curious.
Yeah, no, I think just the backstory is you had invited me to Charlotte, and you were living out of a house, and you were operating a chain of martial arts schools. I think you only had 3 at the time, and it was like I just entered your world, and there was like a renovation going on, and a table being dropped off, and your assistant was decorating in this house that was soon to be. I think there was even people living there. At the time as well, like people were living in a house that you were adding it was a bonus room you were adding a bath to, and you were dividing the bonus room in half. And then you had your office, and you were creating the living room, and you were making, I think, the dining room. You had put walls around and put a door.
Gotta add more bedrooms somehow, right?
What?
We gotta add more bedrooms somehow, right?
So for me, it was just this whirlwind experience. I just remember thinking, who is this guy? And just coming into the situation and not knowing all that went into it. But but just being enthralled in the adventure, and the variety, I guess I would say.
A full circle moment. That house that we met in is getting ready to be sold in 4 days. 2 days,
Wow.
2 days on the 6th. Today's the 3rd, so 3 days. And it's significantly gone up in value, and it was a great rental for many, many years. So that's crazy. Wow.
And the people that are buying it are friends, are good friends of ours. So super happy for them, and they get a great house to raise their family in. And so full circle moment.
So you, as the story continues, you move to Charlotte, and then you jumped in and became property manager. Tell us about.
Well, it was, so my background is fitness, instruction, yoga, boot camp, cycling. And I was burning two ends of the candlestick, as they say. So I think I was ready for a career switch. I think I was ready for something different than what I was doing. And I guess it was just born out of a need. I think overnight your current property manager walked out for one reason or another. I can't remember the exact story. All that is to say, there was a need. And I was like already managing. I'm sorry.
And you filled it.
Yeah. And I was already managing the property that I was living in with 4 other roommates, women, 3 other female roommates. And I was managing that property. And so I think it basically just came up in conversation, like, I can do this. I can help, I can help out. And kind of just, you gave me the keys and told me to fly the plane. So I jumped in, and that was obviously years ago when the company was a lot smaller. And
how many rooms were we at probably at that time when you stepped in as property manager?
About 20, probably
20 or 30.
20.
So that was like what? Yeah, because I would have had 1, 2, 3, 4. I would have had like 4 or 5 homes.
Mm-hmm. One in Charlotte. You just sold the one in Charlottesville.
Mm-hmm.
So probably about 20.
What did you learn during that time? I mean, I'm even thinking if someone's here and they're listening to this, like, okay, there's, hey, I can manage 1 or 2, but what did you learn about managing 3 or 4 homes that might be valuable for listeners to kind of glean from you? So everybody needs to keep in mind, you were living in one of the homes because we weren't living together at that time, right? I said, hey, Rachel, like, you can rent this room that I have in this home. And she was like, okay. So she rented with, I think 3 other girls. So it was 4 people in that house. I was living in another one with 5 or 6 other tenants. So we were kind of like dating, same town, but then you took over as property manager. Now you're managing 20, 30 tenants. What was that like? What did you learn? What were some of the challenges that were associated with that?
I love people. So I think that helped a lot. I think in this industry, you really have to just have a love for your client. And I know people say that, have a love for your customer. But yeah, I just being kind of jumping into it, I didn't know what I know now. And we were creating the systems along the way, so if there was a need that popped up, we had to simply just solve that problem and create a system based on the problem that occurred. So at 20, 15, 20, 25 customers, the problem was this. So you create a system, and then, you have different problems arise at different levels. So I think the biggest thing was like, it is hard in the sense of like, you don't have everything figured out. So if your listeners, if the CoLiving Master University, if they're going to self-manage at first, know that it's going to be a grind for a little while, and things are going to be uncertain. And then like also like the beauty of like having these CoLiving, like house managers, having like point people at each house was like a brilliant solution that arose because we were growing so fast, and like I couldn't be at every property. You certainly weren't going to be at every property. And then like we just had like a small team at the time. And so just this idea of like somebody within the company or within the home themselves, like that was a solution to a problem that arose, but it was a beautiful solution. So I don't know. I just think stay open. know that it's going to take a while, like, and enjoy the process. I think I would tell my old self, like, I think we were just so wanting to scale and grow that those lessons along the way and the journey, like, you want to bypass them or rush them, but like, one home, two home, three home, like it was fun. And like we learned we had to celebrate, and, I think just celebrating this last season that we just came out of and the season that we're going into, like there's new victories, there's new problems that come up, there's new challenges. And, to celebrate those, because I think the hurdles that you have to cross and overcome, the obstacles you have to overcome, especially if you're doing it on your own. And then like, if you do have a spouse, to really just take time out and be like, babe, look what we created together. Like, isn't this amazing? And look at the impact we're having and the Thrive journals. It's just really cool, to look back, and the fact that like students right now are using some of these systems and it's working for them. I mean, that's huge celebration, huge victory. So I think celebrating those small victories along the way, because the big ones are few and far between. And when you're first starting out, and the credit, like I love, everybody wants to feel special. But you're not going to get everybody's trying to win in the real estate industry right now. And so just, you have to pat your own self on the back, like there are days when like you sell a room and you have to like, air five yourself, or until you have that team and staff that can really be, rooting you on. And so you got to create that internal self-motivation, in the beginning stages.
Yeah, it's beautiful. So tell us how one of your biggest responsibilities as a property manager, and something that I pushed you so hard to do because I'm a numbers guy. And even as my girlfriend, I was like, fill those rooms. That was the rallying cry, right? Because I mean, what's great about co-living is like, look, you could have 2 out of 6 rooms filled, and at least you're not empty, right? You could have 3 out of 6 rooms filled, and at least you're like maybe breaking even, right? And then it's the 4, 5, and 6 where you make your real profit, but at least it's like less pressure off. So walk us through like maybe what processes you would use to sell a room. And look, the truth is, babe, I know it's been a while since you've actually done this, but I want to kind of,
yeah. We created a script together. We have a script somewhere.
Yeah, we definitely do.
Yeah, onboarding
it, right?
Together we created. Yeah, I remember the days. Role play. I think follow
the script back and forth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Follow the systems that you have in place. They work for a reason. Onboarding checklists are great. SWOT, for cleaning, that was something we had to develop along the way, because, how do you show homes that are dirty? It's filthy. It's really
Tell
impossible.
them a little bit about SWOT.
SWOT is the cleaning system that stands for sweep, wipe, attend, and trash. And so basically, it's a rotation. Each tenant throughout the month gets a weekly rotation. That is their responsibility to tend to the common areas. And then obviously we have the professional cleaners that come in twice a month. But yeah, it's just, you're living at the home. We want you to make it, your home. And part of that is responsibility. And I don't know, adult chores, call it whatever you want, but everybody's pulling their weight in the home. So that's the purpose of SWOT.
So if you think about it though, like even if they had their own apartment, you'd have to clean your own apartment at some point, right? And we decided to give people an out, right? So for $50 extra a month or $40 extra a month, they could opt out of that and not do any of it, but we'd hire someone, or we'd send in the professional cleaners to kind of cover for them. So you mentioned something else I wanted you to explain to the listeners just to make sure they understand. So you mentioned Thrive journals. So tell us a little bit about what like a Thrive journal is. I know that's something that's near and dear to your heart. I think you were even really a big part of like writing special notes to all of our tenants on when you handed those out. Tell us what those are and what they mean to you.
Yeah, I think the company values come through the leaders and the founders. And so one of our values that we're big on, and no shame, right? Is personal development. And so why not have our company infuse our values? I actually was at a Christmas party over Christmas, and I think I started like crying. One of the tenants was telling me, I got that Thrive journal and I filled it out. I got my $200 or $100 Visa gift card and, I submitted it. And, I just want to thank, she just was so thankful. And she was, I forget what her post office. She drives for the post office, United States Postal Service. And she's like, I never had anybody outline goals like that. Like I've never seen anything like that. Like this was my first introduction to goal setting. And I was just like, wow, like really? Like that, like the journal that we just give out like nonchalantly when people walk through our homes, whether you buy a room or not, that was your first exposure to goal setting. And she was like mid-aged, and anyhow, I love them. I think they embody who we are. We get to tell our story. Look, you don't just come and rent a room, you join a community, and you're not just like, it's not a big corporation and we're just here to take your dollar. Like we are providing affordable housing, we're providing community living for working professionals, and we want you to thrive, is the basis of that journal, and so, yeah, it was really, really touching to be able to hear that.
That's beautiful. I don't think you even told me that story. That's really beautiful. So just so the listeners can understand, I want them to know what a Thrive Journal is, because they don't know, right? Nobody listening necessarily knows what it is. So I have a good friend who's into personal development that went through a season of his life where he was just searching, and one of the projects he took on was writing a journal for people to thrive, and it just incorporated all the principles that he personally thought someone needed, like goal setting. You add in whatever else is in there, but there's like a goal setting little course in this. Affirmations,
wheel of life. A lot of psychology.
Yeah, just the meditation is in there. Healthy eating, nutrition, exercise habits.
Budgeting.
Talks about budgeting, gives them all these cool little quotes. But what I love about this journal is it's not just like teaching. And when we say journal, a lot of people think just a place to write, but like it's a workbook. And then what really is the cool part about it is there's exercises that my friend Elliot Stone, big shout out to Elliot, he's a good dear friend. And so Elliot, put all these exercises in where people could actually do this work, and it's experiential versus just like reading something. So we made the decision, hey, we'll give anybody $100 if they fill out this work, and then we use it as like our business card. So we just give it out to anybody that comes to even look at a room. We give them this as their gift. And so, yeah, like, anyway, that's the context of what that journal is. I just wanted people to really know that.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. So you move, you're the property manager, you go through this thing. So maybe let's talk about, I wrote down in my notes, there's really 3 things that I know that you're really passionate about, and for a while that you really did. So I think this is kind of a cool subject to talk about with CoLiving. And that is like, is people ask me all the time, like, do you furnish all the rooms? Do you furnish the common spaces? What does that look like? And I tell people, hey, we only furnish the common spaces, but you were responsible for furnishing a lot of the common spaces. So I'd love for you to talk about just staging. I'd love for you to talk about staging and design, like how you could even go to, if you want to go into as much detail as you want to, about like how to stage or how to think about furnishing a common space. Give us your perspective on that and what that looks like.
Yeah, I actually was having a conversation today with a good friend of mine who is an interior designer here in Charlotte, who's building an app out for designers all over the world and wants to create an international company. And it is pretty well known actually in the industry. Just got back from a big conference and she was their keynote speaker. So all that is to say, I would say number one is her and I today talked about like trends, things go in and out, and you want to stay with like a very classic, neutral, warm palette. So things, when you walk in a home, why does it feel vibrant, and colorful? Well, because the walls are colored. Or why does it feel warm and inviting? Because there's neutral tones. So there's obviously a whole science behind this. And Sharon Williams, I'm sure you can do research, but basically just choosing colors that are embody, warm and inviting. It's not your home. You're not going to be living there. So people can go as fancy and crazy as they want to based on their budget. But I would suggest choosing colors that are neutral. And then from there, something number two, we did again, going back to the personal development and who we are as people and leaders and co-founders, is we chose inspirational quotes. So we just found canvases, wall art that just had some sort of inspiration and stuck it on the wall. And so in all of our homes, that just became a signature co-living infusion, design that we did throughout. And then, I would say we started doing at the turn of COVID, where we actually really utilized COVID to our advantage. And we put workspaces in the living rooms because we found that people weren't utilizing these long dining tables. They just ended up working at them. So we decided, hey, we're going to create personalized, individualized workstations that you have to remove your personal items at the end of the day. But those worked really nice, and that was like a nice encouragement, for people to come into the co-working, co-living space. And then, I would say as far as like, neutral color schemes and things that are just, you can go modern if that's your, style, or farmhouse is really in right now. It's kind of coming out of style. So again, more classic, choosing dark colors as far as like furniture, because you're going to save money in the long run without having to replace the fabric and upholstery, or sending a cleaner, a professional cleaner in. So choosing dark color tones as far as like things that people are going to sit on.
Something that stays clean.
Yeah, for a while. Mm-hmm. What else can I say? Nonstick pots and pans, labeling the label the furniture, label the refrigerator, label the shelves. We found that really works well, labeling things. And you could be discreet about it. I mean, you don't have to put like, we've done adhesive, little label maker adhesive. And then also like on the doors, just like you would go to an apartment, right? You have number one, apartment A, B, C, and D. You can get fancy like that. You could do mail slots, A apartment gets a mail slot, So just succinct, or the more organized you could be, the better your business is going to run. And especially when you start scaling beyond, those double digits as we are now.
Even triple digits in terms of number of rooms too.
Well, sure. Yeah. Triple as far as units.
So that's great. So you kind of turn these, so we kind of started taking these things and turning them into co-working spaces, like allowing people the opportunity to work there. But then you mentioned something really key, and that is that we make a really hard line on like all your personal items must be out of the common space by the end of the day. And that's just to keep things from being cluttered, right?
Yeah. I'm not a fan of clutter. A cluttered home is like a cluttered mind. I know I've seen like these memes and they're like, oh, my desk is cluttered because I'm so busy. And it's like, no, your cluttered desk is because you haven't taken 5 minutes to reorganize. So for me, at the end of my business day, work day, I just take a few seconds and I reorganize, just clean the energy. And you and I talk about this offline, like, why do you, put the dishes? Why do you have to put the dishes in the dishwasher every night? And, it's just, for me, call it OCD, but it's just like it keeps my environment clutter free, which means I have a mind that's decluttered and an emotional, energetic, my energetic system is decluttered. For me, I'm big on environments. And so, we stopped like even putting shoe cubbies in the hallways because we noticed, because they just became another place for people to leave, umbrella, just shoes, socks. I mean, you name it. And then people would move out and they'd leave their stuff and it would just compile. So it was just it became just another area that just collected dust and clutter. So we said, look, we bring your shoes to your room, or, leave them, I think, even in the garage, but just take them out of that front hallway, right? That eyesore. So yeah.
No, it's beautiful. I mean, anybody listening to this can definitely tell you geek out about this. This is Rachel's obsession. This is her things. This is her thing. She loves to keep things incredibly clean. And Look, I mean, I'm not gonna lie.
Beneficiary of it.
It can be annoying sometimes.
Look at that
'cause
nice
it's
shelf you have
intense.
behind you.
It's intense, but then like I am the beneficiary of it because maybe even like, well, the editor, maybe we'll have our editor throw some pictures of some some of our common spaces that you've designed, and they're like freaking badass, and the house we live in, it's like so yeah, it's like this staged experience,
Yeah.
which really takes it. And I would recommend anybody who's doing the co-living thing, like, make the common area nice. Right, like that's my guy way of saying it. It's like, just make it nice, make it so when you walk in, you feel like, oh, this is badass, this is cool, this is fun.
And a caveat to that is that you don't, like, everyone's like, oh, nice. It means you have to spend a lot of money, but I'm a bargain shopper, And so I don't think that's necessarily the case. Yes, you can go throw a bunch of money, but I mean, there is some just as good enough sales and bargain deals at Home Goods and TJ Maxx and Lord knows, Big Lots and Amazon now, Wayfair. We've kind of had a little bit of a discrepancy with Wayfair as far as what they're shipping and missing parts. But Amazon, you could check the details in the description and make sure all the materials and parts are included. And make sure the materials are good. I could do an episode about this at a later time, but just like making sure that you're using good materials.
Yes, it's got to be able to last, because it's got to be able to stand some wear and tear. So you don't
not like IKEA,
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but you'll be replacing it in a year.
So that's kind of some common space talk. But let's transition a little bit to because I know something else you're super passionate about is community. Like, I remember, we've kind of been on and off as a company. We've done, biannual events, and we've done events. You mentioned a Christmas party you were at with the tenants, which that was the part I don't think you said was like that Christmas party where that person that was for the tenants, that we threw all of our tenants, right? And, so talk to us about the community aspect of co-living. How, I know that's near and dear to your heart. What's your perspective on that? And how can people, if they are looking at doing co-living, how can they do a good job to keep that? And do they have to have that? I mean, you and I talk a lot about these companies, these big companies getting into the space that don't have that. Pad Split doesn't have a community aspect. They don't want a community aspect of it. But just for us, we feel like at the scale we're at, we want to try to keep that personal feel even as we grow, right? But tell us your perspective on that.
Yeah, I mean, I could take the business approach or the personal. The business first is that, we were just talking about this the other day. It's easier to retain a client than it is to go out and get a new one, right? And then secondly, I think the community, why we stand out amongst the rest is because we have that element of community that the tenants really do feel, even at the level that we're at, they feel cared for. They feel there's a personalization. Obviously that, we've selected an amazing property manager who is just a very high eye on the disc. Which is also me, which means that you're just people oriented. Like, yes, there's a result and outcome based approach that you need to get for profit and business. But at the end of the day, we're in the business of people. And so making people feel special from the moment that they reach out to you, till you have that setup interview, till you have that walkthrough. And then during the process, during the process, they should also feel taken care of living, the process of they are choosing to do their life in your home and within your doors. And that's why we decided on Life Door Rentals, right? The name is, and I know I gave you a hard time at first, but it's really taken on a significant name because it means that you are doing life within our doors. And that's really what is happening. Roommates and housemates are each other's best friend. I mean, we've had a couple friends get married. They met and they got married in the house, like not in the house, but they met in the house and in the rental company. Yeah. So just, I don't know, my thoughts and feelings and emotions have changed over the years. It's not just a business. It is, and it can be very profitable. And I think if you treat it as people first, your client first, your tenant, putting your tenants, I used to be like a stickler about things, just coming at it from a, vulnerable place, just from a vulnerable share. Like, I used to be a stickler about us spending money on things, but now I've kind of had a new approach, like if the heat goes out, like you need to be providing like some sort of comfort. Like, it's not just about saving money. And, we would in the beginning, like, do we send out a 24-hour company? Do we wait till the morning? Like, that's more money, but then we risk like pissing people off, like, upsetting the tenants. But like, I think the fact that we really do stand behind just going the extra mile to make people feel comfortable, safe in the houses. I mean, that's something we've really capitalized on, like spent money on, right? And the safety and the locks and the parking and making sure these homes are in nice neighborhoods, desirable neighborhoods. So that's what I would say about community.
Yeah, we've kind of found like we invest a lot of time in what I think are the three most important things, keeping it clean, keeping it quiet, and keeping it safe. And then I would say that fourth one is the community and fun aspect of it. If you can do those four things as a property management company, which is what we now run, and we're excited that we now take on other people's properties in Asheville, North Carolina, and Charlotte, North Carolina. And that's what we try. That's what we work hard to create: clean, quiet, safe, and community and fun. So yeah, no, I love that. I think that's, I was talking I had another podcast earlier today, and we were talking about how like everybody says like once you become financially free, they're going to give back. Oh, why do you want to become financially free? Well, one of the reasons is to give back. And I think you and I's philosophy is like, well, we've achieved financial freedom to a large extent. Not that there aren't other levels of that we're still we're going after, but we've achieved financial freedom. We're in our 30s. I mean, some of us on this call are a little bit older than closer to mid. I'm just kidding, baby. I'm giving her a hard time because she's got a birthday coming up in 6 days. So
I stopped counting after 29. So,
but we were saying, our philosophy is like giving back while we do it, right? And like, hey, we're there. We're in financial freedom. So what if the purpose of business is not just to make money? The purpose of business is to create an amazing product. Like that's the best advertising you could do for any business is to have an amazing product. Like, so I think for us, the way I think about it too, and I know I'm just echoing your thoughts on what you shared already, but how I think about it too is like, we're creating a better product, right? Our average tenancy is over, I think we just did it the other day. It's like 20 months, right? Whereas normal, another company we're working with, it was like 6, and Pad Split is probably even less. So it's actually, I think Pad Split is close to 6 as well. So we're a good 2, 3, what is that? 3, 4 times beyond that. So it shows, and it shows up in the money, and we invest a little bit more on those events and those biannual events. So we do 2 events a year, right? Where we just invite all the tenants and do something cool and something fun and provide food. And that was the Christmas party that Rachel was referring to. We do that once a year. And
then there's other things like, Jess, our current property manager, is integrated house manager, for all the house managers. There's like a little community that's been created now for them. So that's really cool. So she's doing events.
So that's the second time you mentioned the house manager thing. Tell them about the house manager. How does that work? What is that? And like,
I mean, you would know more about it. I think it's just selecting somebody in the house that's really responsible and wants a discounted rental rate to basically be the eyes and ears of the property when you're not there every day and every week, every month, and our property manager now is overseeing all the homes and units. So, just having that second set of eyes to say, hey, I know, I opened up the kitchen sink doors and noticed that there's a leak, and she'll text her right away or obviously put it in our maintenance log. But, anyhow, just somebody that you can rely on and just takes initiative of the home and is a good people person themselves. And they really want to see the home do well. They really want, obviously the incentive of the discounted rental rate is there for them, but like they really want, the home to be a community, clean, safe, somebody that buys into the mission and vision as well, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. And I get a lot of feedback sometimes like, well, that's too personal. Like that's not scalable. There's no way you can scale that. Like, can you really scale that? But we really can, because it's $25 a month is what we end up paying them, and they take out they have a little job description. It's not really a job. That's an
agreement. Just
agreement.
Acknowledgement. This is what you do.
Yeah, they're like, we'll be the eyes and the ears of the property. They'll take out the trash. They'll make sure they'll post pay and vacates. If someone like isn't paying their rent, they get to pay they post it. It's just there's 3 or 4 other things on there that I can't remember right now. But basically, they are the eyes and ears of that property. They make sure things are going well. They text the property manager if anything, is happening that's, against the
Look, that could
rules.
save you a couple $100 a month on water bill just in that alone of
Right.
catching a leak or a toilet running, So even the event of
Exactly.
just having that person on standby, if you don't utilize them all the time, just knowing that that's there, I think is
That's right.
profitable.
Well, cool. Well, let's, as we kind of wrap this up what else anything else you'd like to share about co-living specifically? I kind of want to leave that subject and just kind of finish with like any other tips that you have for working with your significant other. Because I know we've definitely had fun doing that, and we've definitely had a lot of challenges doing that. Maybe we'll kind of wrap up with that and move into that.
I mean, what I want to say is if you want to stay married, don't do it. No, it's just been, for us, it's been a difficult season to navigate. I think, because we started our dating life also was the start of our business partnership, if you will. So I think as we were learning, as we were getting to know each other, we were building a business together. And so I think it's just, I think where we're at now is keeping the lovership, I call it, the relationship, the intimate part of us. I think keeping that a priority. I think that's something we've gotten away from. And I think that's something we are moving back to. And I would say, I'm not giving advice, but I would say, from our standpoint or my perspective as a wife, and a business partner, feeling like we're the priority, because I think in the beginning, a lot of our conversations would end up being about work. And so that's really tricky when you're just getting to know someone, and just learning about who they are, and you are yourself are developing, learning about yourself in the state. So that's what I would say is just the prioritization. I think you and I do a better job now of, we integrate work and fun and play. It's all integrated, but I think you and I do a better job now of being able to even just tell each other like, hey, we're not going to talk about that now. Or is it okay if we talk about that at a later time? Or could you get on my schedule so that I can have a meeting with you? So that we could, I really want to hear what you have to say about that. I'm just not in the headspace right now, or I just don't think we should talk about that, so, or it's just not an appropriate time.
I think all couples have to determine, all couples wear multiple hats, right? Like you and I are husband, wife, we are friends, we are, lovers, we don't have kids yet, but we have, we choose to have kids, we're going to be parents. And there's all these hats. And I think what we've learned is just, you got to step back and prioritize which one of those hats is most important. Otherwise, whichever one just ends up taking up the most time just automatically becomes most important, which is business. So I think you and I kind of stepped back and said, hey, our business partnership, which is what we have, is not the most important one. We're more interested in keeping our friendship and our lovership alive. And so that meant that we actually kind of moved away from each other in business, right? And that was a really, really difficult, and, we didn't do it in the best way that we possibly could have, but that was a really difficult thing to do. But once we did it, I think we kind of were able to fall into our natural rhythms a little bit more. At least that's my perspective. I don't know. You may have a different perspective on that.
I think at first it was hard, but now that we're in the place that we're in, I love us. I love our love. And so I would say, that's what I would say, the prioritization and just making that other person feel really special, and everything you did in the beginning of the relationship, you should do in the end. There won't be an end. So we just keep our love. Quote. So we just keep our love on, keep our hearts open towards one another. I think it's really, really the key. And then we talk about everything, right? Like nothing's off the table. I think we've decided that early on in our relationship, and it's hard. It's vulnerable. It's, there are things that you don't want to talk about, but I think just having that understanding that nothing, like everything is allowed here, all parts of you are welcomed. There's no judgment. And that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of maturity. And I think, we're not perfect, but I think we've really developed into those people, I think that we aspire to be. So, yeah.
That's cool. Well, that's a great quote to end with, is that if, we're ending this on a relationship note on a real estate podcast, but that's how we roll, right? Because some of these things
all relationship,
all related in relationship. Yeah. So actually, that's a cool way to think about that quote. So the quote was, the saying was, if you do at the end of a relationship what you did at the beginning of the relationship, there will never be an end. That's a beautiful thing, Rachel. Thanks for sharing that and bringing that up. And I think that goes for even like business partnerships too. And like maybe someone on here isn't in a significant other relationship right now, but at the beginning of all relationships, you're kind of like gung ho, and then things can taper off. And so you got to really bring that energy and bring that fire. So thank you so much for sharing. Any final thoughts, baby?
Any final thoughts? I was just going to ask you, maybe I could turn that question back to you.
Yeah. Which one?
What was the last question you asked me? The concluding question? What was the final question?
I just asked for your perspective on like working together.
Oh, yeah. What would you say
about working together? I would say
also working together.
I would say everybody's got to sort their strengths, right? And I just feel like we had you in a position that was great for a while. And then we just both realized like, hey, it's probably not your strength zone, your zone of genius. Everybody's got this little zone of genius, and it's small sometimes, like some people, their zone of genius is like doing one thing. Like they write really good emails, and that's all they do. Don't get me wrong, they might be good at a bunch of other things, but like that's their zone of genius. I think life, a big piece of life is just figuring out what that is and then freaking going all in on that, or at least going most of all in on that. I think that's what you're in a stage of figuring out, and that if you can support each other as a couple or a business partner in that,
yes.
I'm not proud of the way I did it. I was very, if things aren't going my way, I get frustrated, right? And some of that definitely spilled over onto you. So publicly on this podcast, I am sorry for that. But
yeah, you're forgiven again and again, but no need to apologize, honey.
Yeah, we're better for it, and I think we're learning and we're going along. So. Yeah, thanks for asking. Well, I love that you've been on this show. This was cool. It's the last couple of interviews I've done have gone off in some really cool directions. This one kind of went off in a relationship direction, and that's awesome.
Did you expect anything less?
No, you brought the fire and you brought the value. I love you so much, and thanks for being on.
Thank you.